Welcome, everyone, as we learn this special segment known as For the Shabbos Table. And this special shir is brought to you courtesy of the Rubin family, who gives a grant to sponsor this special shir every week with thoughts to share at the Shabbos table to enhance and spice up your Shabbos. We asked Yolam, as the Rubin family requested, that they should be zeicha for a ben zachar, and also they should have atzlacha in ruchnius and in gashmius. So we learn in this week's parsha, Uvayayim hashvi yiyeh lochem kodesh. The seventh day, it should be for you holy. Now, Reb Brevda, who was one of the great speakers of his time, Reb Brevda used to say that he heard this, he said this sicha in Bnei Brak, and he said he heard this from Rebbetzin Greineman, who was a sister to the great Chazon Ish, and was also the sister to the Rebbetzin of the Stipler, the Keles Yaakov, Zechatzad V'Kodesh Bracha, Sus Yagan Aleinu. So Rebbetzin Greineman said her sister, Rebbetzin Kanievsky, told her this story. It's an earth-shaking story. Her sister told her that when she was, so to speak, dating the Keles Yaakov, the Stipler, before they got married, so the Stipler told her the following story to see what her reaction was, if she could relate to it. So the Stipler said that when he was in Siberia with the Russians had them in forced labor, and on the first Shabbos, the Stipler went over to his boss, and he said he just wants to let him know that come what may, he's not going to be Mechal Shabbos. He's not going to desecrate the Shabbos. So this really angered the Russian officer, and he brought him immediately to the office, to the upper ups, and they told the Stipler that just for saying such a thing, for being so brazen and for such chutzpah, he deserved a terrible punishment. But then the commander told them with like a ruach satan, in a merciless, cruel, ruthless way, well, there is a way that you don't have to work on Shabbos. If you agree to go through a gauntlet, that means with soldiers on either side, a line of soldiers on either side, and if you go through the gauntlet and you allow each of them to hit you in the head with the butt of their rifle, if you pass through the gauntlet, then you don't have to work on Shabbos. So the Stipler immediately agreed. And that's what they did. They lined up two lines of Kosakin. The Kosakin were rabid anti-Semites. And the Stipler walked between them, and they each walloped him on the head with the butt of the rifle. The Stipler said to his future wife, he said, I can't begin to describe to you the oinig ruchni, the spiritual pleasure that I had when I knew that I was getting beaten l'kfayt kedusha Shabbos. And the Stipler said, I told this to people, and they couldn't really relate to it. I mean, they marveled at the Mesiras Nefesh, but they couldn't relate to the concept of having an einik from this. And the Stipler asked his future wife, do you understand what I mean? And she said yes. It just gives you an idea of what Eishes Chaver Kechaver means. And I remember when I was a little boy, I was 15, and at that time, the yeshiva for the summer was in Camp Westmount. They're not there for many, many years, but they were in a place called Camp Westmount. Now they're in Camp Yeshiva Staten Island in Kerhankson. But I remember that we were learning by our Rebbe then, Rabbi Rosenberg, and it was there were picture windows, and when we saw Rav Moshe's Rebbitzin walking through the picture windows, even though she was far away, Rabbi Rosenberg got up and told us all to stand up, because for Rav Moshe, the Gadol Hador, you have to stand up Molei Einav as soon as you see him, even if he's very far away, and Eishes Chaver Kechaver. So we all stood up for the Alter Rebbitzin. And we understand what it means to be Eishes, the Keles Yaakov. But now, I want to focus on the lesson from this moving story. Obviously, none of us are on the Madrega to walk a gauntlet and have the butts of a rifle rammed at our skulls over and over and over again. We wouldn't be able to do it, let alone have an einik from it. But it does mean that there should be an element of Mesiras Nefesh in our Shmira Shabbos. So when we think about Shabbos, we think about relaxation. We think about chop liver and cholent, a Shabbos afternoon nap. We think about sitting in our living rooms and relaxing with a mishpacha. We don't think about Mesiras Nefesh. There has to be an element of Mesiras Nefesh. Now, one of the elements of Mesiras Nefesh, which we could try to practice, is not to eat a lot of food Friday. There's a lot of good food, and the kugel is on the blech, and it smells delicious, and maybe a sweet luxury kugel, and maybe a little cholent, and maybe there's some herring, But we're supposed to be able to come to Friday night b'tei ovain, that our mouths water with the thought of eating the Shabbos stick of food. At least we could do Mesiras Nefesh by not eating a lot of Erev Shabbos. That's also a Mesiras Nefesh. There's a Mesiras Nefesh not to wait till the very last minute and take a shower, hop, plop, but to take a careful shower and prepare carefully for Shabbos. That's also Mesiras Nefesh. In the polishing of his shoes, there could be Mesiras Nefesh. Even in the sharpening of the knives, there could be a Mesiras Nefesh, besides the schus for Shalom Bayis. But I want to talk to you about another element of Mesiras Nefesh. When it says of a Yom HaShvi Lochem Kodesh, and it says of HaShvi LaHashem Elikecha, Shabbos has tremendous opportunities. The Ben Ish Chai in Parshas Noach says that 1 hour of learning on Shabbos equals 1,000 hours during the week. Now, just to give you an idea, if you learn a daf every day, right? If you learn a daf now in the lunar year is 354 days. You learn a daf every day. So 3 years is, the 3 years dafim is a little bit over 1,000. Right? It's 354 times 3. So it's over 1,000, but it's like 1,060 or whatever it is. So imagine when you learn one daf on Shabbos, that equals 1,000 dafim, 3 years of dafim during the week. That's the opportunity of Shabbos. Now, Reb Eliyah Lapian upped the ante. This is really incredible. Reb Eliyah Lapian said that one time he visited the Chavetz Chaim, Zechat Tzav V'Kodesh Brachas Chus Yagen Aleinu, and the Chavetz Chaim was making a cheshbon of how much learning on Shabbos is worth. So he said that the Chavetz Chaim said that since Shabbos is shkula keneged kol haTorah kula, so learning a mitzvah done on Shabbos is like 613 mitzvahs. And we know that the Gaon says, the Chavetz Chaim continued, that every word of learning is a separate mitzvah saseh. So on Shabbos, a word of learning is 613 mitzvahs, because it's shkula keneged kol mitzvahs. And since on Shabbos it's like 1,000 times, So that's 613,000. So one word of learning is like 613,000 mitzvahs on Shabbos. Now, it gives you an idea, therefore, of what the Yetzer Hara must be like. Normally, the Yetzer Hara works on stopping us from learning more than any other mitzvah. Right? That's the famous word from the Chavetz Chaim. How come the Yetzer Hara was never lazy, didn't start up with Avram, he didn't start up with Yitzchak, and he only fought with Yaakov. So Chavetz Chaim says the Chavetz Chaim picks, the Yetzer Hara picks his battles. He's ready to live with the Chesed of Avram. He's ready to live with the Gevura of Yitzchak. But the Torah of Yaakov, that's war. Because the Yetzer Hara knows Torah defeats him. Barasi Yetzer Hara, Barasi Torah Tavron. So you can understand that the Yetzer Hara always battles us royally not to learn. But if that's the case during the week, then you could imagine what the battle is on Shabbos. Because on Shabbos it's 613,000. You know, during the week a word might be one mitzvah. On Shabbos it's 613,000. So you could imagine. And the Yetzer Hara is by and large extremely successful. People are by davening. Many people even don't listen to the drasha. They fall asleep. Some people walk out, nebuch. Right? And then they're busy eating, and then they're busy sleeping. The Yetzer Hara is very successful. So we have to know that when it says Vayakhail lochem kodesh, we have to work on the Kedusha Shabbos. We really have to work on it. And Mesiras Nefesh on Shabbos is very, very, very appreciated by the Rebbeinu Shalom. Ulefum tzara agra, according to the difficulty, is the reward. I might add that we said that this is one of the reasons, since there's such a strong Yetzer Hara, this is one of the reasons that the Rebbeinu Shalom gave us a little bit more ammunition. And that little more ammunition is that we have a Neshama Yisera. I shouldn't call it little, it gives us extra ammunition. The Neshama Yisera, so therefore the Neshama is stronger than the Guf on Shabbos, because we get a Neshama Yisera. So in that spiritual battle, if we wage it, you can't win if you don't wage it. If you wage it and you decide, you know what, I want to learn on Shabbos, it's such a tremendous opportunity. If we're going to wage the war, we're going to win it. In the way a person wants to go, that's the way he's led. If you're going to wage the war, then you're going to win the war. Now, when we talk about, V'yam Hashvi Alachem Kodesh, and we talk about honoring the Shabbos, the Karasa the Shabbos Eineg, so it's interesting that Rav Zilberstein brings down that it was brought to him a question by a husband. He says even the question was beautiful. The husband said that he wants to use plastic on Shabbos because they're a big family. The tablecloth is a plastic gets thrown away. If you lose plastic, so then you could throw away the whole thing, and it's very easy to clean up instead of doing tons of dishes. The wife, on the other hand, said, look, if a chashuv person would come to the house, they definitely use dishes. So here Shabbos HaMalkah is coming. It says that we consider that like the most chashuv guest. How could she use plastic? So Reb Zilberstein said he got such pleasure from the question that here the husband wants to honor his wife, and the wife wants to honor Shabbos, so everybody is going in the right direction. So he came up with a compromise that they should use expensive plastic, plastic that looks special. So that's honoring the Shabbos and also making it easier for the wife. And of course, it's always a balance, and both of these tafkidim, both of these pursuits are very worthy pursuits, the honor of one's wife and the honor of the Shabbos. Talking about honoring a chashuv, a person, it awakens a memory of mine from the mid-70s. In the mid-70s, there was a tanis called for a particularly serious situation in Eretz Yisrael. And they laid Vayakhail in the Svadish Shul, and Rav Moshe came. I remember it very well because I remember they gave Rav Moshe Rishon, even though the room was full with Kehanim. When they were laying Vayakhail, I remember the great Shamish of the Svadish Shul, Yosel Fishman, was laning. It was a real special gathering. Now, we lived right next to the Svadish Shul, across the street from the Beis Yaakov, in an apartment building, 4600 14th Avenue. We lived on the 5th floor, apartment 5A. And there was a tzad that Rav Moshe might come afterwards to our house. It was a half-day tanis, and there was a tzad that he might come to break his fast and have a coffee. And I remember my father telling my mother that if Rav Moshe comes, she should take out the Pesach, the Kedishas, and make them chametz stick. He says that was a tradition they had in Europe, that if a gadol came, you showed such a chashivas that you took your Pesach, the Kekalim, and made them chametz stick in honor of the gadol. So this woman had the right thought that she wanted to give special honor to the guest, to the Shabbos Hamalka. And talking about a wise woman, the Pasuk tells us, you shouldn't have a fire kindling in your habitat the whole Shabbos day. And here you have a couple that were Bali Tshuva, and the wife went quicker than the husband. And while the wife was completely Shomer Shabbos, the husband had a very hard time to stop smoking on Shabbos. And the wife went and asked the Rav what to do. So the Rav told the wife to compromise and ask him that while the Shabbos candles were lit, if he would be able not to smoke. And he agreed to that. And then the Rav said, instead of using 3-hour candles, use 5-hour candles. And he still listened. And then he said, try to find 8-hour candles. And finally, at the end, she used yahrzeit candles. And slowly but surely, the husband stopped smoking. It's an Isha Chachama. On the other hand, Rav Elyashiv was part of a remarkable story. There was a couple that lived on a kibbutz. They were totally Chiloni, and they were exposed to Yiddishkeit, and they were very drawn to it. They ended up moving to Mea She'arim and became completely from. But the only residual is the wife was a smoker, and she could not stop smoking on Shabbos. Try whatever she did. She was like an addict. And it caused her grief, but she got this uncontrollable urge to smoke on Shabbos. But what was interesting is she was able to stop other days. But when it came to Shabbos, she just needed to smoke. It was almost like pikuach nefesh. So they went to Rabbi Elyashiv and they asked him about it. And Rabbi Elyashiv didn't give any explanations, but he said you should go back to the kibbutz and study the genealogy of this woman. And to their surprise, they found out that her grandmother's mother, her maternal grandmother's mother, was a guy. So she was really a guy. And Rabbi Elyashiv said he guessed that was the case. Because this woman really wanted to keep the Torah. But since she was a guy, it says, Guy she Shabbos chayiv misa. A guy that keeps Shabbos is chayiv misa. So Hashem didn't want her to have misa. She's so erlich. So he made her smoke on Shabbos. As soon as she went through a kosher gerus, immediately afterwards she was able to stop smoking. It's an incredibly remarkable story. Now, we've spoken in the past and this year about the gematria that Isha, which is an easy gematria, Isha is 306, is the same gematria as Dvash, honey, which is also 306. That's the reason why people call their wives honey. They asked Rav Elyashiv what the significance is. And Rav Elyashiv said that the significance is a rush. Rush is one of the fathers of the Rishonim. Is a rush in the 6th parak of Brachas and Kates and Mevarchim that asks, how are we allowed to have honey? Sometimes some of the feet of the bees are intermingled in the honey. And of course a bee is a non-kosher amphibious insect, and it's forbidden with many lavin. So how can we eat the honey? And the Rush says the honey has a special koyach to neutralize the isser of the feet. It's almost unheard of. This is a special koyach to neutralize that which is forbidden. The Rabbi Elyashiv said that's the koyach of a good woman. A good woman has the strength to neutralize bad forces that are in the home. With her Sophia Halichais Beisa, with her Bina Yisera, with her extra intuition, she could neutralize and remove any ruchas of anger, of melancholy, of despondency in the home. That's a special koyach that Hashem gave. That's why the woman lights the candles Friday night. One of the reasons is because it's her job to create an aura of light and warmth of the home. And this is the reason why a woman is called honey. It's interesting that Rav Moshe Soloveitchik says the same idea on the stanza in Eishes Chayil. It says about an Eishes Chayil, Dorsho Tzemer Ufishtim, Vatas B'chefetz Kapeha. She seeks out wool and linen and does with chefetz, with desire, with her palms. So Rav Moshe Soloveitchik says, but wool and linen is usher, it's shatnez. How could she do it, shatnez? So it says it's bringing out that she's able to take things that normally would create an isser and neutralize it. And she has a way of making with the wool one thing, linen another thing, but she has a way to neutralize, even if there are winds of friction and static in the home, she has a way with her chachma to neutralize it. Now, I want to add another thought. It says that Isha is Dvash. Honey, its essence is sweetness. That's the way a woman should view. It's her job to add sweetness to the family, to add pleasure to our husband. That's the meaning. It says about the Eishes Chayil, Toiras Chesed al L'shoina. The Torah of kindness is on her tongue. Now, people hear that say, oh, it means that she knows how to behave with guests and she knows how to make a good Chinese auction. No, that's not Toiras Chesed. The Toiras Chesed is that she is a fulfillment of the pasuk of Loi Toiv Heyoisa Adam Levadai. It's not good for man to be alone. Now, of course, the question is, what do you mean? When you're alone, you could go to sleep when you want to go to sleep. You could eat when you want to go to eat. If you're hot, you could put on the air conditioner. If you're cold, you could put on the heat. If you want it dark, you can keep it dark. If you want it light, I mean, what do you mean, lo tov yisa adam levada? But a man living without this honey of a woman, that's no good. And that's the way a woman has to view herself and ask herself the honest question. Am I giving sweetness in my husband's life? Do I give honey in my family? Or do I make matters worse? Or is my husband happy to come home late because he can't deal with my scathing tongue? This is a very good reality check. This is not to free the man. The man also has an obligation of a simach hazishtay. It goes both ways. As always, I want to thank the Rubin family for making this segment possible. We do not have a sponsor for next week's main Chumash year, so if you're interested, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. Also want to direct people to see my shir, A Wake Up About Prayer, which is both on TorahAnytime.com and on YouTube. It's a shir I gave in BRS in Florida. Also, you could check out other shirim. If you're using YouTube, remember to subscribe and to hit like, then you'll get other shirim. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a wonderful Shabbos.